What's up, A to Z Sports Live on a Tuesday? It is report day for the Tennessee Titans as all the players will show up for training camp today and they hit the practice field tomorrow morning. And Sam and I will be out there at Ascension St. Thomas Sports Park. Tomorrow morning, we'll have a show from the adjacent parking lot. So we'll have to see what happens with the rain situation. So we're going to have a good show today talking about Titans players with the most to gain and Titans players with the most to lose as training camp officially kicks off today. A lot to get to. We'll talk about the big names. We'll have a conversation about Will Levis off the top and then ask you guys which Titans players have the most to gain in this upcoming training camp and vice versa, who could lose the most during training camp. I've got a couple answers. Jack, I'm actually going to fly by the seat of my pants for the lose conversation because I've got a lot of thoughts. I couldn't quite get them organized and how I wanted to go about it. But so I'm going to go off the cuff here as we talk about players with the most to lose. But before we get to throw in shade, which is a Tuesday into show topic. So we'll throw some shade to wrap up this show later on. But Jack, welcome in. Let's get it going.
Absolutely. Hey, happy to be here. One of the last shows before we have players in pads out of Titans practice. We've made it 6 long weeks, but we're finally here. It's a great time to tap into A to Z Sports, people. I know a lot of you guys are already in here, just about 100 of y'all right now to start the show off. We're a minute and a half in, and we've got 14 likes. Let's get those numbers up, pump them up, thumbs up on Facebook and YouTube. It helps us grow, helps us reach new audience members. All that's good for the brand. All that's good for the chat. We want as many people in here as we possibly can get. So like the show on the way in. If you're watching on Facebook, I remind you that sharing is caring. Share this show into at least one of your Titans Facebook groups. There's a billion of them out there. Just share it into one. That's all I'm asking. Do your homework. Help us grow. Help us reach new people. Help us, like I just said, catch the chat on fire today. We're going to have a lot of takes in the chat. Chat's going to be hot this week. I've got a good feeling. So go ahead and do that if you're watching on Facebook. If you're watching on YouTube, guys, today's the day. If you don't have those notifications turned on, do it today. Tap that bell icon near the top of your screen. Turn those suckers on so you do not miss an update. Austin and Sam are going to have boots on the ground out at Titans training camp, and you don't want to miss any video, any content coming up because things change every day. And when a new regime like Brian Callahan's takes over, there's a lot of moving parts. So turn those notifications on YouTube so you don't miss out on any Titans news. Next, if you're watching on Twitch, text that Twitch link to your Titans text groups, whether you're at work, you're getting ready to get off work, you're getting ready to head to work. We'll help you kill an hour. Send that link around. If you see somebody in the cubicle next to you kind of falling asleep a little bit, maybe he ran out of coffee a few hours ago, he needs a pick-me-up, text him the link. We'll wake him up a little bit. But Austin, with all that said, let's get the show on the road.
Yep, we'll soon officially welcome into A to Z Sports, powered as always by the BetMGM app. I'm Austin Stanley. He is Jack Gentry, the Tighten Up Podcast on the A to Z Sports Podcast Network. And we are Nashville's on-demand sports talk network, going live weekday mornings at 8 Central Time on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. Links to the show segment by segment on our Twitter X timeline. Also hit us up on Instagram, TikTok, and Threads for more great Titans content. We got to thank our sponsors because they make it happen for us and they help out all of you, like Wilson County Hyundai. Make Wilson County Hyundai, excuse me. Oh my God. I think my vocal cords get sniped. WilsonCountyHyundai.com to make them a part of your new car buying process. Go see them in Lebanon or online at WilsonCountyHyundai.com. The Bone and Joint Institute, boneandjointtn.org. The region's destination for comprehensive orthopedic and sports medicine care, and Farm Bureau Health Plans. Get better with Farm Bureau Health Plans. You can do it by getting a quote using our link, fbhp.com/ATOZ. Some early shade here, Jack, as I about choke on something to start the show open. I think I bit my tongue in my sleep last night, so I'm having to talk funny to avoid that, which I think caught me to choke up a little bit during that open there. But we're back. Here we go. We're back and ready to go here maybe on this Tuesday morning where the Titans have reported to training camp officially. So let's just lay out the schedule here, Jack, for this week in particular so we can understand what the situation is. So today, press conferences with head coach Brian Callahan at 12:15, and then also press conferences with GM Rand Carthon and assistant GM Anthony Robinson will follow. Then practices are Wednesday and Thursday morning. Sam and I will have to be doing it from Metro Center, from Ascension St. Thomas Sports Park, both tomorrow morning and Thursday morning, as practices are at 9:15 and 9 a.m. Central Time, respectively, which means we'll have to start on time. So all you guys who are bitching in the chat about us being late all the damn time, we're going to have to start on time because we're going to have shorter shows so we can get in there for practice coverage right after the 9 o'clock hour. And then there will be an open practice on Saturday at Nissan Stadium. And I see Andy says, I'm going to be at the open practice on Saturday. I'll let you know what's really going on. Well, we're going to be there too. Jerome asked us, will you guys be at the training camp Saturday? He's coming as well. Yes, A to Z will have coverage at Nissan Stadium on Saturday for that open training camp practice that I believe, Jack, is starting at 11 o'clock that goes through about 12:30 on Saturday. So those are the first 3 practices that we have this week before we have next week to get going with. So, Jack, look, it's finally here. We've made it, right? We've made it to training camp. That is checkpoint number 1. We made it to training camp. Football's not back. It's almost back, but we're at least here for camp.
That's right. And it's been a long journey to get here. And there are so many fun storylines to keep an eye on. I'm jealous of everybody getting out there. Hopefully the rain stays away on Saturday, so everybody has a great time taking in a new practice. Hopefully a really fun practice out there. I'm sure they're going to be ironing down some of the plans, some of the schemes, some of the plays, and everything like that. But it'll be fun to just get to take a look at some of these new guys coming in. There's a ton of newcomers on this roster, and there's a lot of draft picks that a lot of people are interested in. So it's going to be a fun time out there Saturday. But man, Austin, am I glad that practice is finally here. We have substance to react to. I saw one comment say no more stale storylines. Storylines are going to be popping up by the day. We'd have no idea what we're going to be talking about on Wednesday, on Thursday, on Friday, because those practices will dictate some of that. It's going to be fun. It's going to be really exciting shows, and I'm glad we're at this point in the offseason.
Absolutely. And you're going to have some training camp predictions that you're going to have coming out on the website at A2ZSports.com later on. Jill asks, is Titans at 2 coming back? It will be coming back. We'll be doing some training camp updates throughout this next couple of months or so before we get to the regular season. But all right, Jack, let's talk about today's topic. Titans players with the most to gain and the most to lose as training camp kicks off today. I think we all know that Will Levis probably fits in both of these categories, depending on where you stand or where you sit on Titans second-year quarterback Will Levis as he goes in. We've talked ad nauseum all offseason long about all the money spent from the franchise this offseason to build around and support Will Levis, to take advantage of his cheap rookie contract. It's a second-round pick just over a year ago. So year 1 to year 2 jump. Let's hear from the head coach, Brian Callahan, back from the offseason program about what he has seen from quarterbacks going from year 1 to year 2 as we talk about Will Levis here.
The year 2 jump, especially for a quarterback, and is it altered any by the fact that you're putting in a new system?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of improvement that happens when players go from their first to second year, and maybe it might not be necessarily a statistical jump either. They just become so much more comfortable playing the game. There's so much more around them that they're aware of. There's so much more. They're more comfortable in their system, the techniques that are asked, and then what it feels like to play. There's always a big jump, I think, from year 1 to year 2, just like there is sometimes in the season where, that first or second week to that third or fourth week looks a lot different sometimes. So I believe in it. I think there's something to that just because of the experience that they gain from year 1 to year 2. And the system probably, may limit it just a bit because you're not jumping from year 1 to year 2 with the same techniques and coaching. So there might be a little give and take there. But, I think there's a huge improvement usually from the first year to the second year.
So big improvement expected from Brian Callahan and others, but again, also knowing that it is a new system. So Jack, do you have Will Levis on either one of your lists, most to gain or most to lose in this training camp?
I don't. And I think that obviously there's more to gain than to lose for Will Levis when you have a backup in Mason Rudolph, who's only here for 1 year, a veteran guy. It's not like there's another guy that's young and that the Titans kind of want to find an answer on. The quarterbacks behind Will Levis, the answer, the jury's out on those two guys. Like Mason Rudolph, solid backup, really strong option behind Will Levis. Malik Willis is not a threat. Titans fans and this coaching staff already knows kind of what Malik Willis is in this league. But Will Levis, it's going to take a little while, right? Like the transformation is not going to happen overnight. It's not, Will Levis is not going to come out week one and all of a sudden be an all pro caliber player. Like playing in a new system, although it's a system that caters to his strengths, is going to be beneficial for Will Levis, but it's going to take some time. So he obviously has a lot of room to grow, and I'm excited to see kind of how Callahan nurtures him along in this process.
Yeah, Levis is going to be a consistent storyline just about every practice that he's out there for. And so that is going to be one of the biggest things to watch at camp as they hit the practice field tomorrow on Wednesday morning. So Levis, I think if he's going to fall under one of these categories, is Titans players with most to gain. So let's ask all of you and open up the conversation this morning. What Titans player has the most to gain this training camp? Not talking about the season, but which Titans player has the most to gain this training camp? So we want one person, one player from you guys on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch, one Titans player who has the most to gain this training camp. We'll get to all of your answers here in a second. But first, the Bone and Joint Institute is where you should turn for any injury that pops up, whether yourself, your son, your daughter, another family member, a loved one. If they have an injury they're dealing with, tell them to go to the Bone and Joint Institute because they're the region's destination for comprehensive orthopedic and sports medicine care. They have all the resources and the experts there in Franklin, right off of I-65 and Highway 96 next to Williamson Medical Center. The Bone and Joint Institute is the place to turn because they've got all the doctors, all the facilities under one roof with the clinics, the physical therapy, the rehab, the surgery center, the imaging. Everything is right there in one roof. But they also have clinics and physical therapy centers across Williamson County and growing for your convenience. It's a one-stop shop, and they work on efficiency. I've been there a couple times for my appointment with my knee situation over the spring. I was in and out in both appointments in 30 to 35 minutes. Very little waiting room. I brought my computer, right? You get posted up in a waiting room sometimes, so you think you're going to be there. I brought my computer to get set for this and couldn't even get out of the bag before I was back there to see my guy, Dr. Arthur, for my knee tendonitis. So the Bone and Joint Institute is where to turn, boneandjointtn.org.
BetMGM.com, the king of sportsbooks. New users, download this app. Get this app on your phone and plug in that bonus code A to Z Sports, and you'll receive up to $1,500 back in bonus bets if your first bet misses. Tons of stuff going on right now. You can bet college football win totals, NFL season-long props. A lot of options out there, and BetMGM makes it easy to navigate for new users. If you're new to the game, BetMGM is a perfect place to go. So when you sign up, make sure you plug in that bonus code ATOZ Sports to get up to $1,500 back in bonus bets if your first bet misses.
All right, Jack, so we asked everybody in the chat, make sure you hit that like button. Before we get to all of your answers here on our question, I do got to give a shout out to our guy, King VC, who comes in with a super chat early. Lock in and like the show. So please like the show. It helps us out tremendously on both Facebook and on YouTube to build the audience, to have better conversations with camp getting started. So lock in, like the show. Shout out VC right there. So Jack, I'll send you the chat now. What Titans player has the most to gain this training camp as it kicks off tomorrow? Jack, to the chat you go.
Lou Man kicks us off on YouTube with Levis. Daniel says Kyle Phillips has about 20 pounds to gain. The defense from Will Levis, Tavondre Sweat, a couple Tavondre Sweats from Nick and IR Hoshi. We've got Traylon Burks from MB, Calvin Ridley from Noski. We've got Sweat. And then we have a couple more Burks from Take Rock and Pistol Ramsey. NPF easily, says Bork. Traylon Burks from John. We've got Tavondre Sweat from Darren and Cause. Traylon Burks. We got our first Josh Wiley tight end one answer. Tajay Spears from Willie Madden. Tavondre Sweat, Josh Wiley, Tajay Spears, Josh Wiley. NPF, if he's ready to practice. Didn't get to see him at minicamp as he's still kind of recovering from that. I believe it was a shoulder surgery, Austin. Traylon Burks. Levis has to show out. Tajay Spears. Burks, can he show that he can be a reliable wide receiver? Reliability, something Traylon Burks has not really been with the Titans at this point. We got Traylon Burks, Tavondre Sweat, Traylon Burks, Will Levis, Traylon Burks, J.C. Latham, switching positions. This is an interesting answer. Switching positions from the right side to the left side. A lot of room to grow over there. Don't hate that answer from Jason Martinez. Traylon Burks, Latham, NPF, Burks, Josh Wiley, Sweat. So, kind of the same 3 or 4 guys. Here's a couple of Dr. Gibbies coming in from Trevor and Daniel. Uncle Mason Kinsey, Tighten Up Pod. There we go. Zach Goodman. Thank you for listening. NPF. Burks, NPF, Radens, and Rashad Weaver. First Rashad Weaver. Cedric Gray. There's a couple Cedric Grays in here. Kiarsh Jackson. Okay. So kind of a mix of players in the chat, but I would say most of them were either Traylon Burks or Tavondre Sweat.
Okay.
Why I'm not going Traylon Burks is because the Titans' top 3 wide receivers are pretty much set, right? You got DeAndre Hopkins, Calvin Ridley, and Tyler Boyd. So even if Traylon Burks has a stellar camp, I don't think he can climb higher than wide receiver 4, barring an injury. And when it comes to most to lose, I don't think he qualifies there either, because the furthest he can really fall in this depth chart, in my opinion, with the talent that they have, is probably wide receiver 5 right behind NWI. So it's either 4 or 5 for Traylon Burks. So not a lot out there to gain or to lose for Burks in this particular camp. Obviously, he can fall out of favor with his coaching staff.
That's what I was,
and that could be the end of Traylon Burks.
I do think he has something to gain. It might not be any gaining on the depth chart, but I still think he has a lot to gain in this camp because of the chemistry with Levis, the confidence in himself, the confidence from the coaching staff and Levis and the rest of his teammates to perform. So I think the gaining that Traylon Burks can do is all intangible. It's
trust
not
related.
Yeah, It's not looking at the depth chart and saying Traylon Burks jumped and gained opportunity. I think he can gain opportunity, but it's by a way of confidence in himself and confidence from others. That is why I think Traylon Burks could be in play. It's totally cool if you're not going to go with Burks, but that's my rebuttal, I guess, against he didn't have much to move up the depth chart, but he definitely has confidence to gain.
Role-wise, not a lot to gain or to lose, really.
Sure.
But you're exactly right. Trust, chemistry, rapport, all that stuff's very important for Traylon Burks in a make-or-break season for him. Bearded Canoe, Borkington, and a few more were on the NPF train. That's where I'm at, Austin. NPF is really kind of running unopposed for that starting right tackle job. The Titans didn't really bring in anybody to compete with him. Leroy Watson's played 7 games in the NFL, played under Bill Callahan, but wasn't really a guy that the Browns trusted in a starting role. NPF started 16 games his rookie season, got off to a bit of a rocky start last year, having to, bite the bullet on a gambling suspension, only started 2 games, only played in 3 last year. But with Bill Callahan coming in, kind of like the Will Levis conversation, Will Levis has a lot to gain because it's a new system and a coach who can really help him grow. There's nobody that's going to help NPF grow more than Bill Callahan. In the entire league, there's not a better offensive line coach. If NPF, who's just 24 years old, we still got a lot to figure out about NPF and whether he can hold down that right tackle job and be trustworthy over on that side of the ball. I think that NPF has a ton to gain. It's his job to lose at this point, but it's not just can NPF start for the Titans. Can NPF be a reliable starter? Can he be a top 20 right tackle in this league? I think with the tutelage of Bill Callahan and, just confidence and getting him back on track after the shoulder surgery, NPF has the most to gain on this entire roster in training camp.
Okay.
If he can come out and really put a stamp on this camp and have Titans fans and the Titans offense and the coaching staff all feel comfortable with him heading into week 1, then that is a major win because there are a lot of question marks on that right side of the football, the right side of the offensive line, I should say. And if NPF can come out and win that starting job emphatically, then that would absolutely change the course of the Titans season, in my opinion.
It's a good answer. I did not think of NPF when I was going through my players with the most to gain. But I do think it's a good spot because I think you're right. I think he has the most talent of any right tackle candidate out there because you said he's running mostly unopposed. I don't know. I mean, John Ojukwu is an undrafted second-year player who didn't play a ton last year. It would not be ideal it would be ideal if NPF won the job, right? Like, I think we all understand that. So yeah, I think NPF is a good answer for this. And so I see Justin Belcher stays on the right side of the line. He says Sadiq Charles is getting some good coaching and getting starting reps. I feel like he's going to come out of training camp with lots of gains compared to where he's been in his career. And I think Sadiq Charles could have been a good option for this too. So there's a couple right side of the offensive line answers there too. I'm going to favorite some comments so we can come back to a couple other players, because I think here's the interesting thing about this particular roster. Because it's a new coaching staff and because they've changed so much of the roster and the key people, like, let's see, we had a graphic. Let's see if the graphic is still in here. This was new starters, right? Potential new starters added this year would be a free agency and a couple draft picks. If you want to think Devondre Sweat can be a starter at nose tackle whenever they're in that base personnel. It's a lot of new pieces. And so with some more rookies and also a new coaching staff. So there's a lot of options to players with most to gain. But I'm going to go with another rookie because I saw a lot of Sweat answers. And I definitely think J.C. Latham has a lot to gain because he can lock down the left side. I did see Teron Davenport, shout out to our guy from ESPN, who wrote an article this morning. And he said that training camp is a success if ... if J.C. Latham solidifies himself as the left tackle moving forward. And I think J.C. Latham could do that. But my answer for most to gain is Cedric Gray. Cedric, don't call me Eric Gray. So I think Cedric Gray has a lot to gain because I think Cedric Gray can earn a starting spot. So I think Cedric Gray right now is not a starting inside linebacker for the Tennessee Titans. We talked yesterday about one of the most overblown storylines for camp is going to be who wears the green dot. It's going to be talked about. And I think Cedric Gray has an opportunity to earn a starting spot at the inside linebacker position, to earn the green dot. And I think he has an opportunity to do that within the 3 to 4 weeks of training camp and preseason. So I think Cedric Gray, when you're talking about what Treylon Burks doesn't have the opportunity to climb the depth chart ladder. Cedric Gray does. And so that's where I say Cedric Gray has one of the players with the most to gain for me in this training camp period.
Cedric Gray is going to be fun to watch. And I think that his development is critical to the Titans' future at the inside linebacker position. Like Jack Gibbons, you can trust him to be in the right spot. You can trust him to do all the cerebral things because, he's a very smart guy. But Cedric Gray, like where he can take over Jack Gibbons' role is athleticism based. Like the range that Cedric Gray has is really exciting. Jack Gibbons, too often last season, we saw him kind of get beat around the edge, the speed, the quickness, the range, all that stuff felt like was kind of capped due to his athleticism. Cedric Gray can do a few more things than Jack Gibbons can. Now, can he get up to speed in time to win that job for week one? That's something that we'll be paying attention to throughout camp, right? And the green dot conversation as well. That's relevant in this in the Cedric Gray conversation too. I like that answer, Austin.
Yeah. So go ahead. Sorry.
Well, I was going to get to my second player. If we're
go for it. Yeah, because I've got some other players I want to talk about for some comments too. Yeah.
Okay. Next player for me, Tajay Spears has the second most to gain in this training camp, in my opinion. Look, the dude put up over 800 rushing and receiving yards, living in Derrick Henry's shadow last season, and he really didn't get a whole lot of run in the first half of the year. Like most of his damage was done in the back nine of the Titans season last year. So Tajay Spears, you bring in Tony Pollard, and obviously with the money you're paying Tony Pollard compared to the money that Tajay Spears is getting, it's easy to think, okay, Tony Pollard's kind of going to be the lead back here. Tony Pollard's going to handle the brunt of the work. I'm not so sure that that's true. Tajay Spears, man, is an explosive player. I know our guy James Foster at No Flags Film is very high on Tajay Spears. And I think that he can absolutely win the starting job, if you want to call it that. I think both of these guys will kind of be deployed at a fairly equal, have a fairly equal workload. But you also got to think about the kick returning, man. Tajay Spears can make an absolute difference with the new kick returning rules. So I'm interested to see if they use him back there. And, if Tajay Spears can come out and have a stellar camp, he's going to enter week one as the Titans, I guess, 1A at running back. So Tajay Spears has a lot to gain with a big training camp and a quick start to the season. Eclipsing 1,000 rushing and receiving yards is going to be a breeze for this guy.
Yeah, I'm really excited to watch these two. Kenny says the Titans have a 1A, 1B back. They're really close in their running and catching abilities, without a doubt. I did see Jameson also said that he thinks it's going to be about a 55-45 split in favor of Tyjae Spears. I mean, we have no idea how the split's going to be. Somebody's going to have more, right? I mean, like the odds of them coming out exactly 50-50 in the season is probably unlikely.
Let me ask you
a lot of
something.
snaps.
So if you're using one over 60% of the time, is that the wrong way to do it with this group?
Well, I
Because
think it's
maybe it
like,
should be 55-45 to keep
well,
both guys extremely fresh, throw different looks at the defense. How do you feel about that?
well, it's like, oh, what if Tyjae Spears played 60% of the Titan snaps? Yeah, but how many times was he on the field with Tony Pollard? That's now. I think that's the variable that we're like, oh, I'm not really sure because that could be interesting, right? Tony and Tyjae out there on the field at the same time and look, who does that take off the field? Probably, a Tyler Boyd or a Traylon Burks is off the field if both of those guys is on. So I think it's going to be super fascinating to see how they deploy both of those guys. And so to go a couple other comments, because Devin says, I think Spears is the biggest piece in his mind. And Patricia brings up somebody that I think can kind of bridge the gap for this show on most to gain and most to lose. Because I do think Caleb Farley is an interesting dynamic in this camp because he's healthy enough to participate. He went through drills in 7-on-7. Now there's no pads, but he went through drills in mandatory minicamp on the field playing outside cornerback. What is Caleb Farley? Jack, do you think he is a most to gain category or a most to lose category? Because Patricia says, will they keep him or is he a cut candidate? Because I do think it's kind of interesting.
Caleb Farley has absolutely nothing to lose. The fact that he's even in camp, he's healthy enough to participate. Like, I get it. He was a first-round draft pick at one point, but those days are long behind us. If Caleb Farley can make the roster, I would consider it an upset, but I would also consider it one of the better stories that we've seen, from this Titans franchise over the last decade. So, look, I don't think he has anything to lose. I don't think anybody would be surprised if he was let go with the injury history and all that stuff. But, I don't think he has anything to lose at all. So he would fall into a player with the most to gain, in my opinion.
So you already, because he could lose his job. Like, I think if you're talking like literally, he could lose his job. But I'm guessing from your perspective, you already view him on the outside and his job is basically lost until it's officially done.
Absolutely. He's on the outside looking in, with Gabe Judy-Lawley kind of emerging in minicamp. He'll be an interesting player to watch in training camp, which, and he could steal that last spot from Caleb Farley, or one of those last spots, I should say, from Caleb Farley. So I don't think that, obviously, he's got his job to lose, but I honestly think that Caleb Farley would probably tell you, man, he's on the outside looking in right now, and he's got to prove something in camp if he wants to stick around and make this team week one.
Yeah, it's going to be something to watch. I think he and Malik Willis are in similar situations, but for different reasons on can they prove to be kept for another year. And Malik, third quarterback rule, I think is going to be interesting as well to see what his progression is. I know he and Levis have been working with the same quarterback trainer at Vanderbilt for some of the summer, working together with guys like Mason Kinsey and some Josh Wiley and Chig working out at Vandy. But I do think Malik is going to be something. You think he is more gain or lose?
Malik
Caleb
Willis?
Farley is more gain. Is Malik Willis more gain or lose in your opinion?
I just don't know what Malik Willis really has to gain. When you go out and sign a guy like Mason Rudolph, that's your backup. Malik Willis will not jump Mason Rudolph under any circumstances outside of an injury. So I don't think Malik Willis has much to gain at all. If he can just kind of hang around and be that third quarterback, that would be a win. But outside of that, I don't see him really climbing this depth chart.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think he is a third quarterback. He is the emergency, inactive, halfway active, dressed out quarterback that can only play if both guys, Levis and Rudolph, get hurt in that game.
And if Willis doesn't have a good camp, like he could be out of the NFL entirely.
Yeah, no, there's you can go to Canada. There's the spring leagues that, I think the good thing for the good thing for Malik Willis is that there are other options to go to continue to develop because he's still super young. And so it's not like his football career is over, but he might have to take a detour in order to get back in the NFL if that's the case. So I agree. I think Farley is leaning more towards has more to gain, but Willis is leaning towards has more to lose. So my top guy with the most to lose could also be a big player to gain as well. So I'm kind of playing the teeter-totter game here on the seesaw. So now let's flip our attention to Titans players with the most to lose in this training camp. Not this season, specifically about this training camp. What Titans player, in your opinion, has the most to lose in this training camp? We'll get to all of your opinions on this one, but first, Farm Bureau Health Plans. You want to lose some payments from your health coverage? Then go to Farm Bureau Health Plans and check out our link, fbhp.com/ATOZ. They can help you save money on your health coverage, but get better coverage. You want a better deductible? You want a better copay situation? You want a wider network of doctors and physicians you can use nationwide? Then Farm Bureau Health Plans can help you out right there with fbhp.com/ATOZ. They've been serving Tennesseans for up to almost 78 full years. It'll be 78 years in the fall. And I'll tell you this, I've been saying this for about 2 weeks now. If you're interested in changing your health coverage to save money for better coverage, regardless of your situation, DM me on Twitter. I'll check it every other day. DM me on Twitter. I'll give you the direct email so you don't have to jump through any hoops with Farm Bureau Health Plans. It's pretty easy as it is, but I will give you the direct email right there in your Twitter DMs. If you hit me up on Twitter right there, I'll give you that shortcut to Farm Bureau Health Plans. If you want to check them out yourself, fbhp.com/ATOZ is the link.
BetMGM.com, new users download the app and use our bonus code A to Z Sports, and you'll get up to $1,500 back in bonus bets if your first bet misses. Baseball's going on every single day. Tons of other stuff. There's golf tournaments happening every weekend. Like I mentioned earlier, college football win totals, national champion, which teams will make the playoffs. All this stuff is available on BetMGM. It's easy to find for new users, so if you're new to the game, don't worry about it. It's not going to overwhelm you. Download BetMGM, use our bonus code A to Z Sports, and get up to $1,500 back in bonus bets if your first bet misses.
Visit BetMGM.com for terms and conditions. 21 or older. Tennessee only new customer offer. All promotions subject to qualification and other requirements. First online real money wager. Only rewards issued and eligible bonus bets that expire in 7 days. And for problem game of sport, call Tennessee Redline 800-889-9789. Jack, I will send you the chat. We still need more likes on the show, so hit that like button. If you're watching on Facebook and if you're watching on YouTube, please like the show while you're here. That just makes the show better for us. So, Jack, a Titans player with the most to lose this training camp. What's the chat coming up with?
Let's see. We got Reginald starting us off with Elijah Molden. Ridley from Braden. Got to be Harold Landry. Interesting answer from Rashid. Tavondre Sweat
Landry.
from Darren.
Can you pause real quick?
Yeah, let's get back to
pause
that.
after Darren's. What does Harold Landry have to lose?
Absolutely nothing. I mean, the guy came on towards the end of the season last year. It's his second year removed from an ACL, so like he should be able to hit the ground running in camp. Obviously, they'll probably load manage him just a little bit, but I don't think he has anything to lose. It's not like he's going to lose his job with a bad training camp.
Yeah, I don't think Landry has anything to lose. I think he's going to be the best edge rusher on this team, bar none.
Yeah, training camp is honestly insignificant for Harold Landry. Obviously, you want to see him healthy and out there, but like week 1 is where you need Harold Landry the most. You don't need him to go out there and overextend himself in training.
Yeah, he looked good, man. Like when I saw Harold Landry at minicamp, because he skipped all the voluntary work because he's at that point where it's like, okay, edge rusher, go do veteran guy, go do your thing, man. But he looks fast, quick, twitchy, yoked, like all of it. So Harold, I wouldn't worry about it. So continue with the other comments from the chat.
Most to lose, Tavondre Sweat from Randy and Titans Kyle. Arden Key from IR Hoshi. You know what? If the Titans could get a big season out of Arden Key, that could completely transform this defense. Tavondre Sweat, Will Levis, Malik, I guess that's towards our last discussion. JC Latham, Chig, same as his most to gain answer, Tavondre Sweat. So he kind of falls on both sides of the spectrum here.
I do see a lot of people saying that T'Vondre Sweat has the most to lose as far as weight. So just to accept and understand that we see your jokes in the chat.
Don't run that into the ground, chat. All right, we got John saying Kyle Phillips, T'Vondre Sweat, Dylan Radins in PF still. T'Vondre Sweat, most to lose. There's the joke. Burks and Chig, Dylan Radins, no doubt. Jack Gibbons, most to lose is D-Hop or Peter Skoronsky.
D-Hop, what? Like
maybe when you're talking about wide receiver one role, but still, D-Hop's not. D-Hop's
or Peter Skoronsky.
Nobody's going to take Peter Skoronsky's job either.
Oh my God! Like Zach Goodman, you've been with us this whole offseason, man. Like, you don't just act like you haven't been paying attention. Like, that makes no sense.
That's a tougher. I don't want to get on him, but Zach Goodman, come on now. We got Daniel saying Dylan Brunskill. Another Harold Landry. The Titans, if Latham doesn't solidify left tackle, it's obviously Sweat. Where you at, dude? Chig, Eric Garrer, a guy that's going to be, his seat's getting a little hotter with the new cornerbacks coming in. Brunskill, more Brunskill. Jack Gibbons, Will Levis, Caleb Farley. So a lot of different answers. We got Burks, Jamal Adams with the most to lose. Interesting. I'll get a couple more in here. Nick Folk, Chig, Landry. God, too many Landry. Come on, people. What are we doing?
I don't understand the Landry thing.
Traylon Burks, Jack Gibbons, another Landry. Okay, I can't do this.
You want me to go? You want me to go first?
Why don't you bat lead off for us here?
Okay, I think a Titans player with a lot to lose is also a guy who has something to gain, because I think Jack Gibbons is probably in one of the more volatile positions on this roster. Jack Gibbons can either earn a starting job or lose a starting job, because I think he is currently in pencil in starting inside linebacker next to Kenneth Murray Jr. Now, I think Kenneth Murray Jr. could be a conversation about most to lose too, so we can just put that in our back pocket. But Jack Gibbons could go either direction. I don't think he's going to get cut by any means, but if there is a player who is the closest to both a starter and the closest to also potentially being cut, I think Jack Gibbons is that. I don't think he's going to get cut. I think they value him too much to be there. But I don't think there's any other guy who could win a starting job who would also be able to get cut. Like, I don't think Daniel Brunskill is going to get cut. I think that's an interesting answer for some people in this chat, because he might not win the right guard job. But if he doesn't win the right guard job, he's going to be the backup center, in my opinion. So I think Daniel Brunskill is going to be hanging around. Just like we said yesterday with Traylon Burks in that overblown conversation we had, you just got depth. You're not going to cut your depth. That's what you're talking about with Brunskill. You've got offensive line depth. You're not going to cut it and move on from it. Same thing with Dylan Radins. You're not going to cut Dylan Radins if he doesn't win the right guard job, which he is. Remember, Dylan Radins is strictly a guard right now. So I think if there's one player who could both win a starting job and get cut, I think it's Jack Gibbons. So that's where I say he's got the most to lose for me. And my most to gain was Cedric Gray, because you draft a guy high in the 4th round that could take that job from it.
Yeah, I also had Jack Gibbons on my list, Austin, as somebody with the most to lose. And looky here, we got Otis Reese chiming in with Otis Reese. So that's interesting. I don't know if that's the Otis Reese that plays for the Titans.
There's no way that's Otis Reese, because
the Georgia, we got to rep the Rebs if we're Otis Reese, right? But I will say Otis Reese is from Georgia, so I'm not so sure. Interesting. But anyway, Otis Reese, another guy to keep an eye on in camp who could come in and kind of make some noise at that linebacker spot. So Jack Gibbons, I totally agree with your reason. He was on my list. But the guy I think with the most to lose is Dylan Radins. Look, the guy started 16 games in 3 seasons. He's headed into year 4. The Titans have no idea what he can do. I do believe he is the highest ceiling out of any of the guards, any of the right guards, I should say. But if he doesn't win this job in camp, he's going to be playing somewhere else after this season. So Dylan Radins with Sadiq Charles coming in, with Daniel Brunskill, a formidable, competitor for that right guard spot. He's got to really separate himself in camp. And Bill Callahan hopefully can get him to reach that potential, because like I said, I think his ceiling is higher than Sadiq Charles's. But I do believe that Dylan Radins probably has the most to lose out of anybody on this team heading into year 4, a 2nd-round pick. It's make or break for him. It's literally a contract year. So can Dylan Radins step up to the plate? We'll see. But he certainly has the most to lose if he can.
Okay. That's a good one. A good one. I'm trying to do some investigation on Otis Reese, who's watching on Facebook. I think we might have the father. I think.
Well, shout out to Otis Reese's father. Hey,
I
look,
think this is.
looking for
I
big
think this
things.
is
Toddy
because
toddy.
Titans Otis Reese is the third, the fourth.
The third. I think he's the fourth.
Otis Reese 4.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think we have Pops watching the show today.
What's going on, Pops?
Yeah. So welcome in if this is your first time watching, first time I've seen you. So welcome into Otis Reese dad, I believe. So Otis Reese the third. We're not going to call you Trey because that's ridiculous. So all right. So I think to get back on topic here, another player that I think has something to lose is the most to lose could be Kyle Phillips too, right? Like if you're talking about recent draft picks who could get cut, I think Kyle Phillips is probably the top of the list. Do you think so?
Yeah, with the Jaquan Jackson pick especially, and Kyle Phillips had some problems in the return game last season. Like I still think he's useful if you keep him. Like there is a role that he can carve out, not a significant role, but he does something that no one else in this Titans wide receiver room does. They've obviously put an emphasis on bigger wide receivers. Kyle Phillips, he's not tiny. Like the guy's 5'11", but he's super shifty and quick and can kind of do some things closer to the line of scrimmage, potentially in the red zone, running some Hunter Renfrow-esque routes. But if you're exactly right, though, with Jaquan Jackson coming in, Kyle Phillips probably needs to separate himself in that wide receiver group in order to make the team. And you know what? If he has an even average training camp, I don't think that that's going to be enough to keep him around.
Yeah.
At least on the active roster. Training practice squad's different.
I don't even know if he is practice squad eligible. They've changed the practice squad eligibility rules so much since COVID season happened that I'm not even sure who is practice squad eligible and how many years you can be on the practice squad before you're ineligible versus, because you can have veterans there, but only a certain number of them. So I don't know how that works for Kyle Phillips. Jared says he's a savvy route runner. He absolutely is. And Chris Frazier says they love Phillips. Don't forget he was the starting slot guy before they signed Boyd. From who? Who said that? Like, I don't know. I think I watched every press conference the Titans have had since Brian Callahan was hired up until today. And I don't think I heard anybody say that Kyle Phillips was the starting slot guy before Tyler Boyd.
He may have been the only slot guy that the Titans had on the roster before the draft, right? If you don't think that Treylon Burks is going to fit into that role, they literally didn't have another capable slot option on the roster.
No, I mean, I think it was DeAndre Hopkins. Like, I think before the draft, it was if you're going to start play three receivers, it was going to be Burks, Ridley, and D-Hop from the slot or Burks from the slot. I think it was going to be one of those situations. But, I guess you can say Kyle Phillips was the best slot only option that they had before the draft. And they add Jaquan Jackson in the 6th round. Then they obviously signed Tyler Boyd afterwards. Which tells you a lot, like the fact that they needed to draft a slot receiver and then they needed to sign Tyler Boyd might tell you that they weren't satisfied with what they had at the slot only position. So I think, I don't know where you heard that Kyle Phillips was a starting slot guy before Tyler Boyd signing, because I don't necessarily think that the Titans even had that set up.
My toxic trait is never giving up on Kyle. I think that there's too much in there to give up on. Obviously, he's got to prove it, though. That 10 touchdown season he had coming out of UCLA, we were fired up about that value that the Titans were able to get on day 3 in the draft. So hopefully he can stay healthy and gain some trust and build a rapport with Levis. But yeah, a lot to prove in this training camp.
All right, Jack, do you have anybody else on your list for players with the most to lose in this training camp?
I don't, but I think I could probably pull a player or two. And Elijah Molden has the most to lose. I think he would probably be next on my list. look, he kind of just started at the safety spot last season because they got rid of Byron. They really didn't have anybody else that they could trust. And Elijah Molden, it's a big ask to switch positions and to do it well, like he had to do last season. Heading into year 2, like if you roll out Elijah Molden in week 1, you probably have a bottom 5 free safety to start the league. And, maybe that's even too much. So Elijah Molden has the most to lose just because the Titans feel like they're going to make another move and go out and find another free safety. And with Jamal Adams coming in, I wonder if that kind of cuts into Molden's role. We'll see. Obviously, Jamal Adams' health is a totally different conversation. But I just don't think that the Titans completely trust Elijah Molden to start the season as a team starting free safety.
Would he be this free safety or the strong safety?
It depends. It depends how they feel about Amani Hooker. I like keeping Amani Hooker in the strong safety role because he took a major jump last season. I think he can become a Pro Bowl this year under Denard Wilson. I kind of want to keep him there. I don't want to make him do too much.
I just think if you have Amani and Molden as the safeties, who are you more comfortable with playing center field? I'll tell you my answer. I am not playing Elijah Molden deep center. I'm not doing it.
You're not. Amani Hooker, I feel like is better at both positions than Elijah Molden is. So
no doubt.
While
so
the answer
what's
the
biggest consequence of getting beat? You can't put. So I think Amani Hooker is going to have to do everything for them on the back end because we know Jamal Adams can't cover very well. Elijah Molden does not have high-end speed. He's got short area quickness. He's more like Jamal Adams than he is Amani Hooker. And so if you're going to sign another safety, you have to sign somebody who can play the deep half because outside of Amani Hooker, they don't have anybody that I trust to play the deep half. If you're going to play cover 2, you're dropping Hooker and Molden. I don't like it. And so I think you have to, that's a whole different topic because of the, Quandre Diggs and Justin Simmons conversation. I know you and Sam had that show yesterday or last week. So the clock is still ticking and it's still an opportunity out there. The Titans have plenty of cap space to make whatever they want to have happen. But
free safety is a very important position. There's no doubt about it. There's a lot of responsibility back there, but by going out and getting Cheeto Uzi, having Roger McCreary stick around and improve big time last year, probably one of the most improved players on the team, if not the most improved player on the team, and then having L'Jarius Sneed opposite, that does make life a little bit easier on the free safety, does it not?
It does. Yes, it does. But let's just say if your cornerback who's aggressive and likes to do a bunch of jam and press gets beat fast, then it could be over. That's not good for safety. But but hey, I think you trade and signed the best press corner in the game right now, which is L'Jarius Sneed. So you're trying to do that and play that well. So, all right, Jack, I think that covers a lot from gained and lose. Players the most to gain and most to lose. We talked a bunch of names that maybe we haven't spent a ton of time on so far this offseason, but it's here officially. Training camp starts tomorrow on the practice field, and there's a press conference later on today, 12:15 for head coach Brian Callahan, and then 12:45 for GM Rand Carthon and assistant GM Anthony Robinson. So we'll have coverage from there. So make sure you stay tuned to all of our social media, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and more for all of that coverage. But Jack, it is now time to wrap up this Tuesday show with some shade. If you've got shade to throw, get it off your chest. We'll read your shade next. Wilson County Hyundai, make them a part of your new car buying process. Go see them in Lebanon or online at wilsoncountyhyundai.com. Jack, it's time to throw some shade. If you've got shade to throw in the chat, please do it now. We throw shade every Tuesday to end the show. Joshua asked real quick, did everyone report Austin? Joshua, that's what the press conference is for. I guarantee the first question asked to Brian Callahan, if he doesn't just say it out of the gates, is going to be, is everybody here? Did everybody report? Everybody all full attendance? But we will learn that in about 3 hours.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's an exciting day. It's a great day to be a Titans fan, great day to be a football fan. We're going to get to hear from people that we hadn't heard from in a little over a month. So I'm very excited for this week. This is what we've been waiting on.
That's right. All right, Jack, do you see some shade to get to here in the chat?
Yeah, some shade is definitely filing in here. Let's see if I can start here. Shade, here we go. Shade on every person thinking Bama is the best team on college football. I imagine on college football makes it sound like he's talking about the video game, but I feel like he means in college football, like in real life. Kalen DeBoer, by the way, has been crushing it on the recruiting trails. So the momentum keeps on rolling for the Tide down there, but it's going to be an interesting season for Alabama. A lot of change going on down there and big shoes to fill for DeBoer.
Yep.
Shade on the
scary.
Do you have something? What do you say?
Scary. Kalen DeBoer doing well at Alabama on the recruiting trail. Scary, not good for.
You'd think there would be a fall off.
Our schools. Yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm. We got shade on the friggin' green dot. Tired of hearing about it. We talked about it. Overblown. Had a show on that yesterday. It is kind of an overblown storyline, but it will be fascinating to see which direction the Titans go in. Let's see. We got shade on the presser. They block people. Boo. Lou Man wants his comments seen in the Titans presser.
Well, Lou Man, if you treat the Titans presser the way you treat our chat, then you're probably going to get blocked by the Tennessee Titans.
Oh,
but,
yeah. I got your back, Lou Man.
I mean, we don't block you, even though you accuse us of blocking you all the time, but we don't block you. But if you do spam the $1 billion organization's live chat, you're probably going to get blocked.
Devin Mills saying throwing shade at all this heat and all this rain we're about to get. We did need the rain, but it feels like it's going to be coming every single day this week. Throwing shade at Trump's Secret Service, obviously a big slip up over there on that side of the thing. Don't like to dive too deep into politics, but I think we can all agree probably not the best look for the Secret Service there. Andre Bunting says shade on EA for having so much time to make college football 25 great, but just putting out a flawed game that's way too close to crappy Madden. Andre, the most anticipated college football video game, a lot of issues. I've got it over here. And the dynasty mode hasn't really been available all that often. Servers aren't being able to handle all the action. So hopefully
like
they
the
get
online dynasty, like if you're in a dynasty with friends.
With friends, exactly. So which is what everybody was so excited about.
I get like halfway depressed every time I have a conversation about this video game.
You got to get in the game, EA Sports. All right, Jared Gibson says shade on the powers that be. Okay, I like that. Just shading the powers that be. No shade. Life is good for Billy Jones. That's the best kind of shade right there. Eldon says shade at school boards that think starting on August 1st is more important than a good start of the year schedule. I went to a year-round school growing up, and I loved that. So we would always start early, but we'd get more time like for winter, for fall, for spring. And I always loved the extra week we got for those. And summer does run long as a kid, right? Like at some point you're wanting to get back and see all your buddies, even though school stunk. Okay, let's see if there's any more. Shade at PK. Got called out by Arden Key. He did get called out by Arden Key, but I kind of agreed with PK to an extent. Obviously, I'm not going to tell Titans fans how to be Titans fans. And even if you pull for Derrick Henry and the Ravens, look, I'm not going to get on to you too much about that. But we did have that conversation that seemed to set Titans Twitter on fire with Sam and I last week. That was a fun conversation. Let's see. Shade on stuttering. It's so frustrating. I'm right there with you, John. As somebody who speaks into a microphone, when I stutter, I also get upset on myself here. We've got shade on my supervisor for keeping me in the same position for 2 years when making promises to move me up. DeMarco, keep chopping that wood, baby. Good things are coming.
Keep going.
Don't
stop.
Don't stop. That's right. Pedal to the metal. That may be it for shade, Austin. I'll keep scrolling here, but most of these are pretty unproductive.
Unproductive shades. All right, Jack, do you have a shade?
You know, I do, and I went golfing. I don't golf a lot, Austin. It's a slow game. I don't have the attention span for it. I'm not good enough. I'm easily frustrated. So getting out there and sucking at golf isn't something I look forward to doing every single weekend. But I got out there last weekend. Went out to Greenbrier, cheap course, plenty of tee times available. And I just feel like if you're not taking care of your golf course, and especially the greens in the middle of summer, then what's the point? You know, I played at a course that was super unique, but because of how bad the greens were, it honestly made me think twice about getting out there ever again. And a cheap round is a cheap round, right?
Mhm.
But it was that bad. If you're not taking care of your golf course, I mean, what are we doing? You know, put some effort into it. The middle of the summers where everybody's trying to get out there, right before college football season starts. Everybody's got to distract themselves on the weekends. Take advantage of it. Take care of your golf course. Take care of your greens if you got one.
Yeah, that's fair. Greens need attention, as Lou Man says. Rashid says shade on Austin and Sam for not getting this rematch game. I don't know I'm guessing that's relaunched game, the college game. Look, we've been over this. I just flat out don't have the lifestyle currently to play video games. I haven't played video games in 12 years. And it's not, I'm 34. I've not played video games since I graduated college. Been doing other things in my spare time. But yeah, I absolutely miss this game, and I get halfway depressed, like I said, every time I have a conversation about it, because I just think about my road to glory decisions that I would make. I just think about which, low group of 5 school I'd want to start with as a coach. I just think all of that. So
rematch golf game.
Oh,
is what
yeah. I don't even know what rematch golf game.
Power Hour says, here, let me jump in. Shade on selling wood chopping. It's a big world. If they don't appreciate you, go find someone that will. And while I do agree with that, Power Hour, I was trying to be positive. I'm an optimistic guy. I think DeMarco, if he keeps doing what he's doing, hopefully good things come around to him. That's kind of where I was going with that.
There you go. My shade, Jack, I told you about this before we started. A little sleepy today. No, I stayed up way too late. And I found a podcast that's pretty damn awesome. It's a crazy podcast. I will give you enough information to make you say, yeah, I want to listen to that. So comedian Gary Veter has a podcast that just started in June. He's about like 6 to 7 episodes in, and it's about him and his dad. It's called Number One Dad. And if you want a podcast to listen to that you're like, why isn't this a movie? Then this, or a series, then this is something to go watch or listen to, because Gary Veter is a comedian, but he tells the childhood story of his father, who is a serial con man. And one of the cons that Gary Veter did with his father in the 90s when he was a 10 to 13-year-old kid was, for several years, they would sneak into Madison Square Garden and go to games as Gary, as a kid, would act as a Sports Illustrated for Kid reporter, and his dad would act like the photographer for said kid reporter. And they went to see Michael Jordan. He interviewed a ton, like an incredible, like John Elway. They did all types of things, sneaking in everywhere. But it is a fascinating podcast to listen to. So Number One Dad is incredible because it's way more than just that story. It sounds like you think, oh, that sounds badass, but it's a lot more emotional and detailed than that. So I stayed up way too late listening to a podcast on my couch last night because Number One Dad's that damn good.
The comedian game right now, it's hot. Kill Tony is my favorite thing going right now. I watch just about every single one of those on YouTube when they drop. So funny. Tires from Shane Gillis, also a great show. Season 1's out. Eric Castillo right here, awesome. We didn't talk about this today, but Steve McNair documentary on Netflix, Untold, going to be a 3-episode series on kind of just the Steve McNair story, life, and Eric, playing career, life after, all that stuff.
And Eric asks, has anyone watched it yet? No, because it comes out August 20th. So got about a month, a little less than a month for the Steve McNair documentary on Netflix. So Jared says that's hilarious. Slick dad is the con man. No, not terrible dad, terrible father. But the stories are like remarkable, and you're just like, oh my God, like just like he did what? And just terrible person, but very good podcast done by comedian Gary Veter, who is very entertaining and very vulnerable, which makes it great. So
Billy Jones, I'd like to dish out the love of the show to Billy Jones here late. Tell Sam to watch it, talking about the Steve McNair Untold documentary. I love that comment.
Yeah, I mean, it's so ironic because we've had so many spouts with Sam about how he just doesn't understand Steve McNair because he shouldn't. Like, why should a guy who was born in 2000 in Chicago understand Steve McNair's impact in the city of Nashville from 1998 to 2009 and beyond? Like, he shouldn't understand it. Like, but he needs to watch it, and I will make that a job assignment for him to watch that.
I am excited for the untold story, and like it's going to be tough to watch. And Vanessa says I'll cry if I watch it. I didn't cry at my wedding. I cried when Steve died. And Devin said, I don't know if I want to see that. LOL. I listened to a few years ago, the Fall of a Titan with Steve McNair, the Sports Illustrated podcast they did. Really fascinating listen, but there wasn't a ton of closure at the end, and there hasn't been a ton of closure when it comes to Steve McNair's death. Which is really frustrating for Titans fans and people that love Steve McNair in general. But I really hope that they do a better job kind of putting a bow on this conversation and this topic because, this guy's a legend. So I hope that they do right by Steve and his family in this documentary. And I'll definitely watch it. I'm looking forward to it.
Yep. And look, and Eric says that Sam should if he covers the Titans. I mean, like, again, I think that's the complexity with Steve McNair and this city. Is that it's not the same. Like it is such a feel thing that you had to be a feel it in the moment type of impact of what Steve was for Nashville and this young pro football market back several, 2 decades plus ago. But all right, that'll be it. Strikes a Sam, new assignment for Sam. Watch all 1999 to 2004 Titans games. And then listen to George Plaster every week from those archives too to understand it.
Oh my gosh, Eldon. Thank you for
Hilarious.
that laugh. That's hilarious.
All right, that's it for us. Titans press conference in 3 hours from now. Make sure you hit that like button. Training camp starts tomorrow on the practice field. We'll be there live and in coverage with the best Titans training camp content you can find. So make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to us on Facebook and our YouTube channel as well. And we'll catch you guys tomorrow morning from St. Thomas Sports Park. Buck Rising live tonight with A to Z Sports Primetime. We'll talk to you guys tomorrow morning. Appreciate it as always.
Tighten up pod out at midnight.